जिंदगी ख्वाब है. I think AI has taken that. There is a lot of anxiety and a lot of hype about AI. And there is an AI beyond that. And I think that's one of the most important things that we should be looking for. As far as that anxiety, anxiety and hype inducing AI is concerned, I say এখানে ময়দানে যারা গেছেন তাদের ভাষায় বলছি ধোপে টিকবে না. But what will remain, oh thank you so much. Its right use. And I think we will talk about that a little bit more. But let me start with a small story. The story is which I was telling. There was an incident where Royal Air Force was sending their planes into battle and the Germans were shooting it down. And few planes would come back. And they got a bunch of scientists together and said that let's figure out what we should reinforce so that more planes can come back, more planes are not shot down. And they reinforced all the bullet-ridden areas, sent the planes back, and lo and behold, more planes were shot down. So what happened? What happened was that, and this is very counterintuitive, that you actually had to reinforce the areas where there were no bullet holes. Because the places where the bullet holes were, that means those planes took that hit and came back. The places where they weren't, those planes fell there and never came back. So this counterintuitive thinking, which is also what Ashok was talking about, is where AI fails magnificently. And we saw this in real life with Nike. Nike tried a very similar kind of things when they tried to go digital with their shoes. And this has now become a case for all the management courses and so on, where they basically asked all those who had already bought Nike shoes, what do you want? And they told you what they wanted because they already had it. Nobody knew what other people who did not have the Nike shoes, what did they want? They're the people you needed to go to. And that's the problem that AI faces. So I've got a lot of points to talk about. I think the first point I want to make is this out-of-box thinking, which is also something Ashok talked about, is something AI cannot do. So what can AI do? And once we understand that, we can actually use it to our advantage. Every technology, I believe, whether it's a laptop, when the computers came, everybody said, oh, there's going to be job loss. What happened? Things settled. Right? Same thing will happen with AI. But what AI can do is that it can recognize patterns. And as a result, it can make you do things, for instance, your muscle movements of your face. And as a result, certain facial expressions, not everything, but some, it can do very, very, very well. So we have to understand how AI works. You have to understand how it does clustering of different patterns. So it's a great pattern recognition machine. And once we do that, lots of repetitive tasks, for instance in VFX, this roto that we do, AI has already made and is making a big difference. If I go back to things, recently there was a movie called Critters. It's a purely short VFX movie. Actually, it's really bad. Entirely AI generated. Somebody said that it's so bad that he felt like jumping from his couch, sit on the TV and look at the couch itself and not look at the TV. It was that bad. So is this teething problems or is this the fate of AI? So these are all questions that we have. But where there's some real fantastic things that has happened with AI is in Brutalist, where the Hungarian accent was enhanced by AI. And in this regard, let me tell you my experience of making a documentary and then doing a dubbing, turning it into Hindi. So we did that, and 80% was great. 20% wasn't. So I thought, well, Donald had a farm. Yes, he can no longer support his family and farms. There was a line like that. And it gave it to AI, and AI obviously made Buddha McDonald ke paas. You can imagine. So, but here is the problem. The problem was, I thought that okay, the 20% that AI could not do, we will do it. And I got somebody to do it, and now things don't match. AI is mode of doing the translation or whatever you want to call it, and the other person's mode of doing the Hindi transcribing is completely different. So finally, I had to do the entire thing by hand. Couple more examples I'll give you, and then I'll stop. There is an Argentinian movie, El Eternauta, where it's not a movie. I'm sorry. It's a 6-episode series, total 360 minutes, of which 2 seconds were AI generated. That's it. And that's becoming a talk of the town. That's what I mean by the hype. So I think once we move beyond the hype, it will settle down. I think AI has in my view, AI has a tremendous advantage which we are not using. For instance, when we pitch to a producer, we can create an AI-generated pitch deck. Like we can actually create a look and feel that we can give it to the producers instead of doing a pitch by yourself. Production design. Tremendous help can come from AI, where extension of sets or even pre-visualization of sets. Talking about pre-visualization, with a cinematographer, I would want to do pre-visualization to see how should I move the camera to get what. Now, storyboarding, that's another place where I think AI will come in a big way. So I think there are a large number of places where AI would come in, other than a thing in and of itself generating stuff. We will talk about problems of working with AI probably when we get to it. But let me stop here. All I want to tell you is that look at AI as a tool, not as a thing in itself, not as a monster riding on you. It will not be. And please, let's go beyond the hype. As far as job loss is concerned, I think that's a very nuanced problem. And by the way, AI today is not cheap. That part is where might be the biggest Achilles heel of AI. Thank you. I'll come back to it later.
Thanks, brother. Varun, you wear multiple hats, so I want you to think a bit of the actor, a bit of the director, a bit of the producer. How much are you, in all these 3 verticals, how much would you collaborate with AI? To what extent would you collaborate with AI? Would you see it as a collaborative medium, or would you completely shun it away and say, this is a negative disruption, I don't want this?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, actually. Vikramjit, right at the beginning, you mentioned 3 words, I think. Whether AI is going to help collaborate, the hype, assumptions, ideas about AI. And first of all, let me just put it out very bluntly that I am the least qualified amongst all these gentlemen to speak on the subject, because the gentleman sitting to my right, as you already know, making films. More than that, the way he spoke, I think Marlon Brando would have given him a run for his money. So I don't even feel like speaking after him. To my left are 2 gentlemen who are incredibly crafted, skillful in their crafts. And both are essentially technical crafts. So I am the sort of the hongsho moddhe boko jotha ektu khani etar moddhe arki. I'm trying my best. So that je as an actor, it sort of I think disrupts me going by the standard ideas about AI. Why? Because it's going to take away my job. As a director, I don't know that. I'm saying going by the standard ideas which are floating around in the market. As a director, as a director, you need to keep pitching. And for the last 1 year or so, all our pitch decks are AI generated, everything. And it really does make a difference, because you can actually give your client, whether your client is a producer, whether your client is like a proper client, you can give them a look and feel, and people really love that. It just really makes your life easier, because they can actually see how the end product is going to look like. They can actually have a look and feel of that. So it works as a collaborator. As a producer, again, going by the standard ideas floating around in the market, it's an enabler. Why? Because I get to make more for less. You know what I mean, right? So three hats have sort of a conflict of interest within the ecosystem itself for me. So it's a very bit of a tricky situation for me. Honestly, I have not worked with AI myself, like by my own hands. Apart from like my knowledge about AI goes all the way till ChatGPT and Gemini and just about that. I have my interns, a lot of my interns, my assistants, they are brilliant at it. I ask them to make a deck. They are ready with an AI generated deck in like 2 hours flat, which is fantastic. Absolutely. So it's a question of whether we let our creation become a Frankenstein. You know, it's a question of whether we allow it to become a monster or not, as Brother Pradhoda was pointing out. I personally do not feel that there is much need to be really anxious about or really hyped about. There is a general idea or there is an initial reaction, knee-jerk reaction to any new invention that comes out in the market, right? Whether it's OTT. So when the OTT started becoming popular, people said, okay, theatrical is going to become obsolete. It hasn't, right? I mean, in fact, it has been reinforced. OTT, FYI, is reaching a saturation gradually. And people are flocking to the theaters all the more. Yes, what has happened is, people are going to theaters for a certain kind of films. And people are resorting to OTT for certain other kind of films, shows, content per se, broadly speaking. So there's a segregation that has happened. Bit of a sieving, ছাকনি আর কি বেসিক্যালি যেটাকে আমরা বাংলায় বলি সেই জিনিসটা করছে যে একটা চালুনি রাদার আর কি যে এইটার জন্য এইটা এটার জন্য এইটা এরকম একটা জিনিস আমরা দেখেছি হতে I think personally similar things are going to happen. However, there are some like first-hand perils of the AI, and it is not perils of the AI per se. It is these perils generate from the genesis of these perils lie in the use of the tools. Like financiers, not producers, financiers, people who pay money. It's very important. These are the most important people in our lives actually. For us, people like us who are freelance actors, filmmakers, they all claim to understand script writing. Because what they do is they take ChatGPT, they just put in a feed and the next day say, "Mujhe sab sorry, এটা বাঙালি আইডিয়া যেই একটা খারাপ কথা বলতে গেলাম হিন্দি চলে এলো মুখে দেখলেন নো সবসময় এটা বাঙালি ফিনান্সের করে বাংলাতেও বলে তারা এই তো আমি সব জেনে গেছি সিনেমা কিভাবে লিখতে হয় কি তারা 4টি প্রম্পট দিয়েছেন জেমিনাই বা চ্যাটজিপিটিতে পাট সব চলে এসেছে এই তো এভাবে সিনেমা লিখে এটাকে বলে 3 অ্যাক্ট স্ট্রাকচার এতে এই হয় এইটা নিয়ে এরকম ভাবে লিখলে হয় এই স্ক্রিপ্ট রাইটিং নিয়ে এতগুলো বই আছে এরকম ভাবে লিখে ফেলা যায় দ্যাটস অ্যাবাউট ইট সো নাও আই এম রেডি টু টেক ইউ অন সো আমার অ্যাজ এ ডিরেক্টর আমার যে ক্রিয়েটিভ ওনার তো মানে ফিনান্সিয়াল ব্যান্ডউইথ আমার থেকে বেশি বলাই বাহুল্য আমার তো ক্রিয়েটিভ ব্যান্ডউইথ তোমার থেকে একটু বেশি হতে হবে আইডিয়াল সিচুয়েশন বাট হোয়াট এআই ইজ ডুইং ইজ it is not increasing my financial bandwidth over the other person but it is increasing his or her financial bandwidth over my creative bandwidth so that's a bit of a dangerous situation for people like us who are working in the freelance sector. Number 2, language. Just again taking a cue from what Pradhoda said. Recently, I'm not going to name the publisher, not going to name the book, nothing. But recently, I happened to record for a audio book, which is a translation from English. Now, this audio book I was reading was meant to be in Hindi. I mean, the translation was Hindi into Hindi from English. Now, I read the English book, the original English book. It's written in absolutely lucid, nicely easy flowing English by a contemporary gentleman. But the moment it has been translated into Hindi, not by a human being, but by the AI, it has become a Hindi Kalidasho bolten na. সমস্ত ও গুলো বে हम यहाँ पे कर रहे हैं এরকম একটা হিন্দি সেটা আমার অডিও বুকটা পড়তে আমার দাঁত খুলে গেছে এবার না every time I've tried to lines of the original book. The problem is the people in charge, the people who have commissioned this project, they don't understand Hindi. They are from another country. They understand only English. So whatever AI has given them, they are taking that to be Dhruva Shotto. That is the last piece of truth on the earth. So they are constantly telling my producer and me that no, do not change anything. And I can understand that this is happening at the of the product going down, but you can't do anything. That is not nice. That's what I feel.
Yeah, thank you. You know, never a dull moment with Param. And don't you ever believe that he says, you know, he actually